Hi, I'm Les from BrainSparks.ca, and in this series, we're going to cover storytelling for business, which is about crafting messages that move, influence, and inspire. It's aimed at students and professionals who want to learn how to harness the power of narrative to transform everyday communication into compelling, persuasive, and memorable messages. This series is packed with step by step guidance, real world relevance, and hands on exercises designed to help build skills. So, whether you're pitching a new idea, presenting data to leadership, managing change, or building a brand, this series will give you the tools to craft stories that connect emotionally, engage minds, and drive results. Through this, we hope you'll learn how to structure business stories with clarity and purpose, create characters, conflict, and stakes your audience cares about, use tone and emotion strategically, turn dry data into meaningful narratives, and deliver story driven presentations that stick. Each mini episode within this will cover short, focused writing activity to help you apply what you've learned in real time. And by the end, you'll develop a complete business story presentation ready to pitch, share, or present with confidence. So, why does storytelling matter in business? We live in a world that's saturated with information, emails, reports, metrics, and meetings. Yet, amid all the noise, there's still one thing that cuts through and sticks with us, and that's a good story. In business, storytelling is more than entertainment, it's strategy. Whether you're leading a team, launching a product or service, pitching an idea, or selling a service, your ability to tell a compelling story can mean the difference between inspiration and confusion, clarity and rejection, as well as buy in from employees and customers. So, why is storytelling so effective? Stories are memorable. Research shows that we're 22 times more likely to remember information presented in a story form rather than as a bullet point list of facts. Stories build emotional connection. They humanize our message and create empathy. Stories move people to action. They bypass resistance by engaging hearts before minds. This series is practical for students and professionals who want to sharpen their storytelling skills, specifically for business contexts, presentations, pitches, internal communications, brand messaging, and much more. You won't just hear about storytelling, you'll actually practice it. Each little mini episode will include a short hands on writing activity. So by the end of all of the episodes, you'll have crafted a complete, impactful business story ready to present to any audience. I hope you'll join as we explore what makes a story a story. In this first part, we'll cover what the anatomy of a good story is. So, what is a story? At its simplest, a story is a sequence of events that involve a character overcoming a challenge to reach a goal. All great stories, whether they're novels, films, TED Talks, business case studies, follow a structure. They create curiosity, introduce tension, and deliver resolution. They take audiences on a journey. The classic story structure includes a beginning, middle, and end. That's kind of the universally recognizable structure. You introduce your context and characters, you introduce challenge and conflict, and then you eventually get to resolve the situation and have a takeaway. The business version has a setup. What is the situation or opportunity? Then comes the conflict or challenge. What problem or obstacle arises? And then eventually we get to a resolution. What action was taken and what was the result? We also have the hero's journey. This is adapted for business because you can be a hero as a customer, a team member, an employee, a full team that is facing a challenge. You can experience setbacks and learn something new. Then you emerge changed with a result or transformation. So, why does structure matter in business? When you're pitching an idea, launching a product, or explaining a complex problem, structure helps your audience follow along and stay engaged. Without structure, a message feels scattered and forgettable. With it, the same message becomes compelling and memorable. There are some common pitfalls when it comes to business stories, though. There's too much background, too many facts, not enough tension. This is a data overload without any human connection or context. And then you jump to the solution too fast. There's no clear so what for the audience. Your story should answer three questions for the audience. Why should I care? What's the journey? And what's the takeaway? As our first writing activity, let's tell a mini business story. Write a short story that's 150 to 200 words about a real or fictional business situation using the following format. Describe the setup. What's happening? Describe the challenge, what went wrong or changed, and then the resolution. What did someone do about it, and what was the outcome? As a bonus tip, make the main character someone the audience can relate to, whether that's a customer, colleague, a manager, or even yourself. Now let's talk about identifying your core message. Clarify what you're really trying to say. And you need to know why you're telling your story. Business storytelling isn't just about entertaining your audience, it's about making a point. Whether you're giving a presentation, making a pitch, or writing a brand narrative, every story should resolve around a core message, a single clear idea that you want your audience to remember or act on. If your story doesn't support your message, it's just noise. Why core messages matter. Think of your core message as the spine of your story. It keeps everything aligned and ensures that every detail you include, character, conflict, resolution, serves a purpose. A clear message helps your audience understand what you're really saying, helps you stay focused and avoid tangents, and it helps guide decision makers toward your desired outcome. So, how do you find your core message? You can ask yourself a few questions. What do I want my audience to know or believe? Why should they care? What do I want them to do next? The best business stories are simple but powerful, like change is hard but worth it. We solve real problems for real people. Our customer success is our success. Data isn't scary, it's empowering. These ideas are the North Stars that your story revolves around. Avoid the trap of trying to say everything. I'm definitely guilty of that. One of the biggest mistakes in business storytelling is trying to include too many messages at once. You don't need to cover every angle, you just need one strong takeaway, an idea that sticks. You can support it with facts, data, or anecdotes, but the story shouldn't wander from its central point. If your audience walks away confused or overwhelmed, you've lost them. For our next writing activity, find your one big idea. Choose a topic or issue that matters to you in your work or studies, something you may want to tell a story about later. Now answer the following. What is the main idea or belief you want to share? Why is this idea important to your audience? What action or mindset change do you want to inspire? Now condense it into one sentence. This is your core message. Some examples could be small teams can create big impact when they stay focused. We're not selling software, we're solving real customer frustrations. Sustainability isn't just good ethics, it's good business. Then you'll return to this message throughout the future episodes as we build our story around it. Characters, conflict, and stakes. Make your story matter by making it human. Every great story, business or otherwise, needs a central character, a challenge to overcome, and something meaningful at stake. These are the elements that create emotional engagement, the kind that moves audience to care, remember, and act. Without them, your message is just another presentation. With them, it becomes a story that sticks. Who is the character? Your character or protagonist is the person or entity at the heart of your story. It might be a customer facing a problem, a team navigating a change, a leader making a hard decision, or you as the storyteller. Your audience needs someone to relate to. Even in a business context, people connect with people. If you're telling a story about a process, policy, or product, don't start with the thing, start with the who. As a tip, use real names, faces, or roles when possible. When our marketing analyst Priya noticed a pattern, this is far more engaging than the data showed. What is the conflict? Conflict is what creates tension, drama, and forward movement. In storytelling for business, conflict doesn't mean fighting, it means a challenge, obstacle, or dilemma. Examples of business conflict could be a customer struggling with inefficiency, a team unsure how to meet a new goal, a product launch that didn't go as planned, resistance to change within an organization, which I think is universal to every company and organization. Conflict gives your story a purpose. It shows why the situation matters and creates space for transformation or insight. And what's at stake? This is where the emotional weight of your story comes in. Stakes answer the question, why does this matter? If nothing changes, what will happen? If the challenge is overcome, what is gained? Examples of stakes could be a missed deadline, which could mean losing a client. An unadopted system could waste thousands, if not millions of dollars. A new idea could save hours of work each week. A bold decision could unlock new growth. Stakes don't have to be dramatic, but they need to feel meaningful to the character and relevant to the audience. When you present a character with a challenge and meaningful stakes, your audience naturally leans in. They want to know what happens next. This emotional engagement is what drives persuasion, trust, and action in business settings. For our next writing activity, Use the following questions to help sketch your mini business story. Who is the main character? Give them a name or role. Make them real. What challenge or conflict are they facing? Be specific. What's getting in their way? And what's at stake? What do they stand to gain or lose? Example, you have a project manager named Elena. The conflict is that her team is struggling to collaborate effectively in a new hybrid work setup. The stakes are if they can't adapt, they risk missing the product launch deadline and losing their client's trust. Keep it short, just a paragraph or so. This exercise is trying to serve as a foundation for your full story later on. Storytelling formats in business. Not all business stories are told the same way. Depending on your goal, audience, and setting, you may need to adapt your story structure, tone, and format to fit the context. The good news, there are repeatable, reliable storytelling formats that professionals use every day, whether it's pitching an idea, explaining a tough decision, or engaging customers. Let's look at a few essential formats, when to use them, and how to make them powerful. First is the origin story. What is it? How your company, product, team, or project began, usually involving passion, vision, or overcoming early challenges. When to use it. Brand storytelling, startup pitches, leadership introductions. The structure is the problem we saw, the spark of an idea, the journey to where we are now. The second potential option is the customer journey or case study. What is it? It's a real life example of a customer overcoming a challenge with your product or service. When would you use it? During sales pitches, marketing content, testimonials, and proposals. The structure is you meet the customer, describe them a little bit, describe the problem they faced, describe the solution your company offered, and what was the result achieved. And the third is the vision story. What is it? It's a narrative about where you're headed and why, and it's meant to aspire, align, and mobilize. When would you use this? For change management situations, leadership communications, team kickoffs, or strategic planning. The structure would be what is the current state, what is the challenge or opportunity, and what is the future we're building together. The fourth one is failure to insight. What is it? It's a story of a mistake or failure and the important lesson or shift that came from it. When do you use it? During thought leadership, keynotes, panels, culture, or learning moments. The structure is the decision or action taken, what went wrong, what we learned, and how we adapted. And fifth is the data story. What is it? You're presenting facts, figures, or trends in a narrative form with context, meaning, and human impact. When would you use it? For reports, dashboards, investor updates, strategic presentations. The structure would be as follows. What did the data show? What does it mean in real terms? What action does it call for? How do you know when to choose the right format? Ask yourself, who is my audience? What do I want them to feel, understand, or do? What type of story will best deliver that message? You may mix and match different formats as well. For example, a pitch might start with your origin story and end with a customer case study. For this writing activity, pick a format and draft a mini story to go with it. Outline a short business story idea using the suggested structure. Don't write the full story yet, just sketch out the key elements. So, what's the type of story you're telling? Who's involved? What challenge or opportunity is being addressed? What happens? This will become a strong building block for future story that you'll develop in later episodes. Emotional tone and resonance. How to connect to hearts before minds. In business, we often default to logic, facts, figures, and features, but emotion is what moves people. Whether you're pitching a product, introducing a change, or inspiring a team, emotion is the bridge between attention and action. A story without emotion is just a report. A story with emotional resonance becomes memorable, shareable, and impactful. Why does emotion work? It creates a connection. We relate to struggle, joy, uncertainty, pride, frustration, and hope. It builds trust. Authentic emotions show you're human, you're not just selling something. It motivates action. People don't act just because they understand, they act because they care. In short, emotion is the secret weapon of business storytelling and it's underused. How to find the emotional core of your story. Ask yourself a few questions. What does your character care about? What do they fear, hope for, or stand to lose? How does the situation affect their day to day experience? Even technical or data heavy stories have emotional layers. A new process equals relief from frustration. A metric drop is a fear of failure. A successful outcome is pride and confidence. You don't need drama, you need relatability. Tone is how you say it that matters. Tone is the emotional flavor of your message. It shapes how your story feels. It could be uplifting, urgent, humble, celebratory, empathetic, or bold. The tone should match the context and audience. A story about overcoming adversity might be vulnerable and inspiring. A pitch might be confident and optimistic. An internal announcement might be supportive and transparent. Avoid tone mismatches, like being overly casual during a serious announcement or being too formal when sharing a personal story. Be authentic, not manipulative. Emotion should be used ethically, not to mislead or exaggerate. The goal is to invite connection, not to control the audience. Readers and listeners can sense when a story is trying too hard or doesn't ring true. For the next writing activity, let's add some emotion to the story you've been building. Return to the story outline you created in the last mini episode. Now reflect. What is the main emotion the character feels at the start? What do they feel as the story progresses? What do they feel at the end? How do you want your audience to feel at the end? Now, write or rewrite a short version of your story, just a few hundred words, that intentionally include emotional language and tone. Aim to show emotion through action and choice, not just description. As an example prompt, could be frustrated and overwhelmed. Sarah knew the current process wasn't working. Using data in stories. This is my favorite. Turn numbers into meaningful narratives. In today's business world, data is everywhere. There's dashboards, charts, KPIs, and metrics. But data alone doesn't inspire action. It needs context, clarity, and a story. Business leaders don't make decisions based on numbers, they make decisions based on what those numbers mean. This is where storytelling comes in. So, what is data storytelling? This is the art of combining data, narrative, and visuals to influence decisions and drive understanding. It connects what the numbers say with why it matters. Without story, data is noise. Without story, data becomes insight. So the key elements of a good data story could be context. What are we measuring and why does it matter? Change or insight. What's surprising, concerning, or worth noting? What's the human impact? Who's affected? How does this data relate to real people or goals? And a call to action. What do we need to do now? Here's an example of before versus after. Our net promoter score rose from 58 to 72 last quarter. That's just data. Now, if you add a story to it, you could say, in just 3 months, our team raised our customer satisfaction rating from 58 to 72, thanks to faster response times and a new onboarding experience. Behind that 14-point jump are hundreds of customers who now feel heard, supported, and ready to succeed. Some tips for better data storytelling are don't overload. Focus on a few key metrics, not a fire hose of statistics. Use comparisons, show trends, changes, or benchmarks to highlight meaning. Humanize the numbers. What's behind the metric? What story does the trend suggest? Use visuals sparingly and clearly. A good chart is a story in itself, but don't let visuals replace explanation. There's a few common mistakes to avoid as well. Don't present numbers without any interpretation. Don't use jargon or abbreviations the audience doesn't understand. Don't forget about the emotional or human connection, and don't assume the audience will get it without being walked through the insight. For the next writing activity, let's turn a statistic into a story. Choose a statistic or metric relevant to your business, industry, or field. And if you don't have real data, you can just make one up for practice. And then answer the following questions. What does this number tell us? What changed or stood out? Who was affected and how? What should we do or learn from this? Now write a brief narrative using that data point as the central pivot of your story. Keep the tone engaging and human centered. As an example, you could say last quarter's 40% drop in email open rates raised a red flag. Or after implementing a new support system, response times fell from 8 hours to 2, impacting every new customer's onboarding experience. Now let's talk about writing with clarity and impact. Say less, mean more. A compelling business story isn't about what you say, it's about how clearly and powerfully you say it. In business, clarity is credibility. If your message is cluttered or confusing, you'll lose your audience, even if your story is great. Great storytellers don't just write with emotion, they write with precision. Why clarity matters? Busy professionals don't have time for guesswork. A foggy message reflects a foggy mind. Clear writing leads to confident decisions. You're not just informing, you're guiding attention, shaping insight, and motivating action. That requires writing that is easy to follow, easy to remember, and hard to ignore. There are several ingredients of clear business storytelling. One, use short sentences and strong verbs. Cut filler words, use verbs that do the work. So let's say we launched a pilot instead of we initiated the process of beginning to explore a potential pilot. Two, concrete details over abstractions. Be specific and relatable. The team missed the deadline by 3 days is better than the project timeline experienced a degree of variance. Third, use one idea per sentence, one message per paragraph. Break it down. Complexity should live in insight, not in sentence structure. Four, use headings, lists, and white space, especially in slides, memos, or reports. Don't bury the good stuff. Five, edit ruthlessly. Ask, is this word necessary? Is this sentence serving the story? If not, cut it. How to find your voice. Your business voice doesn't have to be formal or robotic. Aim for confident, approachable, and conversational. Write like someone smart and helpful who wants the reader to succeed. Your tone might vary, persuasive for pitches, friendly for team updates, empathetic for change communication, urgent for risk scenarios, but clarity is always the baseline. As the next writing activity, we'll polish for power. Choose a short story or paragraph you've already written in a previous episode. Now, underline the words or phrases that are vague, redundant, or overly formal. Rewrite it in 3 to 5 short, clear sentences. Use direct language and short, strong verbs. Ask, is this message obvious? Is the tone appropriate? Could a non expert understand this? As an example, before and after, the message before could be in alignment with our strategic goals, we've undertaken a comprehensive reevaluation of our current platform functionality to determine areas of potential enhancement. But if you revise it and edit it ruthlessly, you could come to we reviewed the platform to find ways to improve it. This supports our long term strategy. Storytelling in presentations. Bring your story to life. The rules are a little bit different when you're actually giving a presentation. Telling a great story on paper is one thing. Delivering it live in front of people is where business storytelling becomes a powerful leadership and communication tool. Whether you're pitching an idea, rallying a team, or delivering a keynote, your ability to tell a story out loud will set you apart. A good story helps you connect, clarify, and persuade. A great story makes your message unforgettable. So, why do stories work in presentations? They anchor your message in emotion and context. They give structure to your talking points. They break up complex content. They make you seem real, relatable, and credible. And most importantly, people remember stories, not slides. Before creating your slides or visuals, outline your story arc. You have to have an opening hook. Start with a moment, a person, a surprising fact, or a big question. Next, what is your conflict or challenge? Is there tension? What's the problem? Then there's a turning point. What action or decision shifted things? Next, you get into the resolution and outcome. What was the result and what did you learn? Now you have a call to action or insight. What should the audience take away? You don't need to tell a story the whole time, but embedding 1 to 2 strong stories into a presentation can frame your whole message. Use visuals to support, not distract. Slides should highlight key points, not repeat your script. Use simple visuals to reinforce the message. Keep text minimal. Think signal, not noise. Avoid paragraphs on slides, overly complex charts, or stock photos that don't add meaning. Some delivery tips include practice out loud. It sounds different in your head. Make eye contact. Connection builds trust. Use pauses. They give the audience time to absorb and you time to think. Modulate tone and pacing. Varying your delivery adds energy and engagement. And believe in your story. Authenticity is more important than polish. For the next activity, let's create a storyboard for a 3-minute talk. Choose one of your earlier stories and outline it as a short live presentation. Use the following structure. 1, title or topic. 2, opening hook. 3, the main character and situation. 4, the challenge or turning point. 5, the resolution and takeaway. And 6, what the audience should remember or do. Optional, sketch 3 to 5 slide ideas to support your story. Then we're going to use this as a rough draft in our final activity. Storytelling for influence and change. Move minds, shift behavior, and inspire action. Storytelling isn't just about sharing, it's about shaping. In business, stories are often the most effective tools for influence, whether you're convincing a skeptical stakeholder or guiding a team through change or leading with vision. When change is hard, when logic fails, when data overwhelms, a well told story can cut through. Why storytelling drives influence. Stories build trust. They humanize the message and the messenger. Stories reduce resistance. They bypass defensiveness by engaging emotions. Stories help people see themselves. They let the audience imagine new possibilities or perspectives. Great leaders and communicators don't command change, they narrate the journey to it. The influence story arc. To influence thinking or behavior, your story should follow a motivational arc. One, what is happening now and why it's not working. Frame the current reality with empathy, not blame. Two, what could be, the new vision or possibility. Paint a picture of a better outcome, make it vivid, hopeful, and grounded. Three, what needs to happen, the next step or change. Connect the dots, what the audience can do and why it matters and how to start. This arc turns your audience from passive observers into potential participants. There are a few types of influence stories. There's cultural stories. They show what behaviors are valued. Example, here's how a team member went above and beyond. Change stories. They guide people through uncertainty. For example, when we changed platforms, here's what it meant for the team. Vision stories. They inspire direction and alignment. Here's what the future could look like. Testimonial stories. They show success through real experience. For example, a peer faced the same challenge and here's how they overcame it. There are some keys to ethical influence. Use real examples or honest composites. Be transparent about your intentions. Invite agency, don't manipulate. Respect your audience's perspective and journey. Authentic influence is grounded in trust, clarity, and shared purpose. The next writing activity, create a story for change or influence. Think of a business situation where someone, which could be a team, client, or even yourself, needed to change, grow, or try something new. Describe the current state. What was happening? What wasn't working? Describe the better future. What could be? Why would it matter? Describe the bridge. What step or insight led to the change? Write a short story using this arc. Aim for a tone that is encouraging, thoughtful, and action oriented. As an example opening line, when our team resisted adopting the new system, I didn't push back. I told them a story about what happened the last time we tried something new. Now let's put it all together and share your story. You've practiced the elements of storytelling, structure, emotion, clarity, tone, data, and delivery. Now it's time to bring everything together into a single cohesive story driven presentation on a topic of your choice. This last activity is your opportunity to synthesize your skills, find your unique voice, and share a message that matters to you and your audience. Create a 3 to 5 minute business presentation that tells a compelling story and achieves a clear goal. Your presentation can be a pitch for a product or idea, a case study or customer journey, a vision story for future strategy, a personal leadership story, or a change story to inspire action. Any topic or purpose that resonates with you is great. To build your final story, one, clarify your core message. What do you want your audience to know, feel, and do? For example, investing in employee development is the smartest long term strategy we can make. Two, choose the right story format. Match your message to a format, origin story, case study, data story, etc. That amplifies it. Three, map your story arc. Use the simple 5-part structure we discussed previously. That's the hook, capture attention with a fact, question, or moment. Context, introduce your character or scenario. Present a challenge, what's the conflict or tension? Now describe the resolution, what changed and what worked. And the takeaway, what's the insight or call to action? 4, support with data or details if relevant. Use numbers, visuals, or real examples to add credibility, but keep it human centered. 5, draft and edit for clarity and impact. Refine your words, cut out unnecessary fluff, focus on what your audience needs to hear, not just what you want to say. 6, design a simple slide deck. If presenting live, include 3 to 5 clean visual slides to support your story. No walls of texts. Think headlines, images, and charts. 7, practice your delivery. Say it out loud, time yourself, practice in front of a peer or a mirror. Polish your tone, rhythm, and confidence. For the last writing activity, draft your full story presentation. Write the full version of your story and write it as a script or outline with your key talking points. If you're stuck, start with this prompt. Let me tell you a story about a challenge we faced, what we learned, and how it changed the way we work today. When finished, review it for a clear arc, emotional and relatable elements, clarity and conciseness, a strong close with a memorable takeaway. Now you have the foundational tools to use storytelling as a strategic superpower in your professional life. The story is just the beginning. Keep practicing. Use what you've built here to pitch, lead, persuade, and connect in more human, powerful ways.